So, the results are in from a countdown y'all wanted to see next, so here it is. Sonic can be known for having very fun and very intuitive level design, even in some of his worst outings. But despite all this, they can be hit or miss, so here it is. My 10 least favorite levels from the series. Now then, just to be clear, if your least favorite level doesn't appear on here, it could be because I haven't played the game, or I actually didn't think the level was that bad for it to be on the list. Alright, time to talk about everyone's favorite blue hedgehog yet again. Whenever bad Sonic levels from Sonic Heroes come into discussion, the casino levels or the canyon levels are brought into play, and out of both types, I say the canyon levels are worse, and out of both, Bullet Station just shoots the bullet further. If we're gonna be honest, this level has less rails than Rail Canyon, but Bullet Station has so much more problems than just the railing sections. It also has more problems in terms of, well, just about everything else. It has some problems with checkpoint placements as they're all distanced a bit too far from one another, making it very monotonous when you die and respawn, losing about 2 minutes of your progress. There are also times where you have to go on a train in order to destroy the main core to progress, and they're not bad, but it is rather boring. But at least you only have to do it twice, so it's not a hassle. There are also times when you shoot out of cannons to progress the stage, and it's very fun trying to get the balloons. But the biggest problem is near the end of a stage. Near the end of a stage, you shoot out of this cannon, but when you land at the edge of the platform and fall off without touching the rail. And on my replay of Sonic Heroes, I've had this happen to me about 3 to 4 times before completing it. This section's actually easy as hell, but because of Sonic Heroes' bad physics and horrible control, it will become about just as difficult as perfecting a pancake flip. And on top of all this, the boss you fight after is Egg Albatross, which is such an annoying piece of crap. But at least the music's good, though that's not saying much since Heroes is filled with a lot of fantastic music tracks. One thing that makes Generations a great game is it brings back many fan favorite levels, making them shine bright and making them awesome. Hell, most Generations incarnations of the levels are actually better than their original counterparts. I originally was going to put Classic Seaside Hill on this list due to the water sections, although that's pretty much just about what I hate about it, so I didn't think it was appropriate putting this stage on the list. Unlike Classic Planet Wisp, which suffers a lot of issues. Modern Planet Wisp, despite all the flaws it has, honestly is the most decent in terms of generation stages, but Classic however has much more problems. This stage doesn't focus on speed, more so along the lines of puzzles and platforming with the Spike Wisp. See, why I enjoy the Spike Wisp in Sonic Colors is because I feel like they respond, and in fact I feel like I could control it slightly. But here, it feels like the Wisp here doesn't respond to my commands most of the time. The main puzzle with the Spike Wisp is using them on cogs to progress through the level, but the control feels unresponsive and the cog puzzle in itself is boring. In one part you have to try to spin multiple cogs to hit switches to progress, but it's super uninspiring and tedious in itself and takes a while. And not to mention, this stage feels like it takes forever. Because this stage is so slow with its platforming and puzzles, there is no way to speed things up unless you're somehow a speedrunner, which I'm not. In itself, this stage could have been better and it does have a lot of potential, but instead it's slow, sluggish, tiresome, and so tedious. This one's been a bit of a debate as to which is the worst in the game, so this is the only segment on this list where 2 levels from the same game will take the same spot. So here we go, Central City and Lost Impact from Shadow the Hedgehog. Both of these stages really get under my skin, so I'm gonna start off by talking about Central City. I've hated this stage for as long as I can even remember for multiple reasons. 1. No goal ring. Playing this stage for the first time as a kid, I wanted to try to find the end goal, but I didn't realize that there was no goal ring, so I traveled all around downtown until I eventually ran out of time and had to start all over again. 2. The layout of a level. This one's a more open level since every path is connected and many areas look exactly the same as other areas, so you'll end up getting lost until just maybe, you end up at the very beginning of the goddamn level. 3. The time limit. Because the Black Arms has activated bombs to go off, you have 8 minutes to either defuse the bombs or blow them up, so it makes sense. But if you don't understand the layout and because that everything looks the same, you'll have issues finding your way around and finding the bombs you'll need. And 4, the missions. The Dark mission isn't that much of a hassle since you just have to find 5 bombs, but the Hero mission you have to suck up 30 little bombs with Knuckles. The problem is that they don't really tell you, but then you come to realize that maybe the vacuum pod will do the trick because it can activate certain platforms in Final Haunt and even suck up rings in small enemies. But how was I supposed to know that you could even suck up the little bombs? But, I was really dumb at the time and now I know what to do. But the memories this stage gave me ended up making this stage a nightmare to play. As for Lost Impact, however, this stage is more annoying rather than difficult. And it isn't a maze stage like the Doom in Central City, though areas still do look the same as others. Unlike Central City, this stage does have a Get to the Goal Ring mission, but the Hero mission is where things start to get messy. In this mission, Maria assigns you the task of destroying all 35 artificial chaos, and with a stage that has so many rooms like the Doom, it really becomes a bit of a chore. Miss even one and you'll have to backtrack through checkpoints to find out where the other artificial chaos you missed are, as the layout is mostly along the lines of forgettability. Some of the most experienced Sonic players I've seen on YouTube spent around 20 to 30 minutes just to find the damn things. Some areas cannot be accessible unless you use the gun lift, which is a cool way to progress through, but sometimes you'll get knocked off by meteors or the artificial chaos you may come across here. Lost Impact in Central City honestly had a lot of potential to be some of the best stages in the game, and for some people with Lost Impact it could be. But in my opinion, both of these stages have very messy missions with some backtracking and some of the best music in the whole game. For those who played Sonic 2, you would expect Metropolis Zone to appear on this list. Although, I actually didn't find the stage half bad. In fact, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. The shell crackers and slices didn't bother me as much, as well as being the only stage in Sonic 2 with 3 acts, and I really enjoyed the platforming, level design, boss battle, and especially the music. So if it isn't Metropolis Zone, my pick would have to be the stage before, Oil Ocean Zone. Granted, I understand that for some people, this stage isn't that bad, and honestly, that's fine, but it's not really for me. Usually in 2D Sonic games, higher areas are safe and lower areas are dangerous, and this is especially the case with Oil Ocean Zone. Certain areas have you sliding on oil slopes which will send you down to the ocean polluted by the oil, and you'll have to jump your way out, otherwise you sink down and you know what happens next. The stage is also filled to the brim and littered with spikes. Loads and loads of spikes. And there are also octus everywhere, which gets really annoying after a while, and there are also cannons, which are honestly not that bad, as they do automatically get you to where you need to go. The boss at the end is meh. I don't technically hate this boss per se, but it is annoying without trying to fall into the oil ocean. Honestly, I somewhat enjoy the platforming here. This stage honestly has some of the best platforming in all of Sonic 2. Honestly, this stage isn't that annoying when you get to be Super Sonic, but because I haven't got the chance to be Super yet, still makes this stage really bothersome. It also returned in Sonic Mania, and honestly, it's somewhat better than the original, but the second act and the toxic gas and some of the worst bosses in Sonic Mania pretty much making Oil Ocean the epitome of global warming. Sonic Adventure has some really good stages to test the player's speed and platforming, but when you get to Casinopolis, I get that Sega wants to try out new ideas to be diverse and versatile, but honestly, this feels more so a minigame than an actual stage. Why? Because the goal is actually very close, but an invisible barrier will prevent you from getting there unless you get a whole lot of rings from a casino itself by transporting yourself into the pinball machine. And honestly, I don't mind these, but it takes forever to get the coins you need, and the right amount you must deposit to get to the capsule is at least 400 rings. You can complain about how the 400 rings missions with Tails from Circus Park and Shadow was terrible too, but at least I was always moving forward and actually felt like I was playing through a stage. although Shadow came around a few years after Adventure, so it is also an unfair comparison. Sorry, but you see my point, don't you? Now then, there is a chance you do go to the sewers and do some running, and it's pretty good, but then you end up back at the casino area. I also love the fact that Sega's other property Knights makes an appearance in this game as a pinball table with the cards as well, which is so cool. Maybe that could be why Knights is a part of Sonic Pinball Party on the GBA. Jeez, wonder how many people remember that game. Man, Sonic and Pinball just don't mix well, especially since all these Sonic games I played that have some sense of pinball in them have horrible pinball physics. Aside from Sonic 2, of course. I think we all know the infamous water temple of the Sonic series, Labyrinth Zone. Underwater levels get a bad reputation in gaming in general, but the Sonic series especially, this is what happens when misunderstood research comes into play with the developers believing the hedgehogs have no ability to swim. It's also hard to believe that out of every underwater level there is in the series, this one still gets the worst reputation for being the worst water level in the entire Sonic series. And it's understandable. The controls are very sluggish and the pacing in this stage is horrible. And because you spend so much of your time underwater, you have to consistently wait for air bubbles because the drowning music will be your nightmare. And the boss battle at the end is just, well, I would say boss, but it's not really one because all you do is just chase Robotnik upwards with the water rising. And to think that this isn't the last time we see it because there's a Labyrinth Zone act in Scrap Brain Zone, the stage returns as Lost Labyrinth Zone in Sonic 4 Episode 1, but despite it being slightly better, it's more boring and uninspired, and returns again in LEGO Dimensions if you download the Sonic the Hedgehog pack. Honestly, while Sonic Forces is the least best of all the mainline Sonic games I've played, the level design is more along the lines of pretty good. I mean, yeah, the levels end sooner than they should, and also that you could break many of the game's obstacles. So yeah, it's easy, but tell them once you get to the Eggman Empire Fortress, and many of the stages start to be either challenging or still slightly easy. This is one I discovered in one of my most recent replaythroughs, Iron Fortress. I never thought this stage was so annoying when I initially played it the first few times. I just thought it was mildly okay, but I was dead wrong because it is worse than I thought. I do get that this is the final stage for Classic Sonic, but man is this so annoying. The first reason is the targeted missiles launching at you, and they are easy to avoid, but sometimes you'll try to jump up steps and when you're jumping you'll eventually get hit by one of the rockets. There are also electrical fields and the flywheels returning from Sonic 3, and I hate these things. You can build up speed from simply just rolling into a ball and you'll go at blazing speed, but at the right timing you will go where you need to go, but fail and you'll get sent down. I wouldn't mind it, but failing for the 7th time on the same one and doing it over and over again gets super frustrating after a while. But that's not it. The worst part about this stage is the auto-scrolling section. Something that should never ever be in a game series based on speed. And the platforming here is so annoying because not only are the platforms here tiny as hell, but you also have to deal with the missiles and jumping from flywheel to flywheel. What? Not only that, but this section takes up half the stage. I looked at the timer from the beginning of the auto-scrolling section to the end and it takes a full minute. One of the better parts admittedly is the music, but even then Iron Fortress's theme honestly isn't that great to listen to. This is a game with very decent level design, but the 3 worst parts are 1. The level length, 2. The non-existent obstacles, and 3. Messes like Iron Fortress. I give Sonic Boom Rides the Lyric a whole lot of credit for great level design, but unless we're talking about River Rush, then that's a whole nother discussion. The next crystal is located at the pit, and the only way you can get there is by borrowing Salty's boat. And when you do get to the river, it's a cluster truck of a level. The biggest reason why this level is on here is due to the controls of this thing. You steer with the Riptide with the left control stick, but in order to shoot your weapons you have to use the right control stick. It's so awkward just trying to control the damn thing with both control sticks at the same time, especially if you're rotating the right stick to rotate the Riptide. Now then, River Rush is pretty much an enemy rush level. You have to defeat an endless amount of swarmers. The only way to stop them is by destroying all swarmer hives in the arena to progress. And it is easier said than done, since you have to deal with swarmers that self-detonate by the way. And later on, you have to deal with floating mines, and near the end, Eggman will come and try to shoot missiles at you. But because the control of the Riptide is bad, you'll hit a lot of obstacles. Even the environment isn't safe because something as simple as small rocks will guarantee your boat's damage insurance. And at the end, you have just a straight line of Eggman shooting missiles at you, but it's more along the lines of tolerable than anything else. I actually wouldn't mind all of this if the controls actually weren't bad, but because you have to use both control sticks to steer, shoot, and rotate, as well as the fact of using the L and R buttons to switch your elemental weapons, it's a nightmare more so than anything else. And on top of all that, every time you get hit, because then Knuckles is the one driving this thing, you have to constantly hear the rest of Team Sonic insulting him, which in turn is insulting towards the player.
Knuckles, are you even steering?
I think I need to invent autopilot. Knuckles, fly straight or get some glasses.
You need to shut the up!
You wanna know something funny? I actually wasn't originally thinking of putting a stage from Sonic 3 and Knuckles on my list, but once I replayed this game, there was one stage I never thought I would put on my list, let alone number 2. Carnival Night Zone. You know, I really enjoyed Casino Night Zone from Sonic 2, so I really wanted to know how Carnival Night Zone from Sonic 3 was, and by the time I got to it, I hated it from the first few seconds I entered. The level design is absolutely littered. As much as I love bouncing around on my balloons, the pinball bumpers and anti-gravity sections is some of the worst obstacles in the game. For the pinball bumpers, they're placed in areas where you're trying to build up speed, but eventually once you reach pinball bumpers just spinning around, you'll eventually get hit by them with some of the most annoying sound effects I've ever heard. And the anti-gravity sections where you have to build up an incredible amount of speed in order to get up there. But because the level is littered and disorganized, you probably won't reach the speed that you need. There are also tilting cannons, which are the least of your worries. As for the enemies, the Clammers and Batbots. But Clammers can be used as springs to progress, so they aren't bad. But the Batbots, on the other hand, are very pesky and annoying. They aren't hard to defeat, but they are tedious when you encounter them. In Act 2, specifically with Sonic and or Tails, there are underwater sections, and there's a section where you have to push down a spinning wheel in order to progress. And speaking of the spinning wheels, I actually don't mind them. Before I played this level, I've heard a lot of people say that you have to press the up and down buttons to move a thing, and they thought that you had to jump, so I was very well aware. But the worst part of this level are the flywheels, and as you can tell from the Sonic Forces entry, I hate the flywheels. In fact, they're even worse in Sonic 3. They're unresponsive, and most of the time you'll have a hard time just simply getting on the stupid thing. Also, when playing as Sonic and or Tails, it's one of the largest zones in all of Sonic 3. But when playing as Knuckles, it's actually one of the shortest. And I've heard that Carnival Night Zone is worse as Knuckles, but I wouldn't want to know what it's like as him, so I won't. You know what sucks? It's actually had a lot of potential because of how disorganized this zone is. Not even the music had the ability to save it. Oh well, at least the stage after is Ice Cap Zone. But before we get to number 1, let's take a quick look at some of my other least favorite stages in Sonic and these dishonorable mentions. Sky Road Zone 2 from Sonic Lost World. The stage was actually going to be on my list instead of Carnival Night Zone, but platforming is good, it's just the mech dragons that just destroys them all, and I also hate the boss battle against Zavok at the end. I love the music, however. Casino Street Zone from Sonic 4 Episode 1. A more boring version of Casino Night Zone. The music isn't that great, but cannons are annoying to use, the boss battle is just bad, and the level design is a pure mess. Water Palace from Sonic Rush. Sorry guys, but I don't like this stage. I thought that the water controls are super sluggish underwater, the platforming sections are meh, and there are also issues with bottomless pits. I love the music and the scenery, however. And Planet Wisp Act 4 from Sonic Colors. This stage has very tiny platform sections, and you also have to build up speed, cause otherwise, you may end up at a previous part of the stage. It's so annoying. But I mean, hey, Planet Wisp is one of my favorites in Sonic Colors, it's just this act specifically that I hate. You know, after realizing things further when watching Ruby or Blue's commentary on Pro Jared's Sonic Avenger 2 review, I came to the conclusion that the treasure hunting stages aren't actually that bad. I mean, technically speaking, I still don't like them, but I moved on from hate to just dislike. Something I haven't moved on, however, is my hate for Aquatic Mine. Mad Space and Security Hole may objectively be worse levels, but my hatred for Aquatic Mine is worse. Aquatic Mine has you play as Knuckles into this underground mine that is surrounded by loads of water. Although echidnas are strong swimmers, so it makes sense. The issue here is that many of the emerald locations are located underneath the deep blue liquid. And even though echidnas are great swimmers, the controls here feel kinda jittery underwater. And my god, this camera! I understand Sonic games aren't that well known for their camera control, but still. There's also an upgrade that you'll need that'll allow you to breathe underwater, the Air Necklace, which you'll definitely need for the final level Cannon's Core. But most players would probably miss it the first time, as the necklace is placed in such an isolated part of the stage. You have switches that will lower or raise the water level, which is a good feature in my eyes. Yeah, I have some positives about the stage like this and the music, but you know, for being my least favorite level in Sonic history, I can't say I hate a lot of what this stage has to offer. I mean, the ghost is somewhat annoying and the air necklace is placed in an obscure area, but the biggest issue is the water to me. I get that the name of this place is Aquatic Mine, but the name doesn't always imply that the main feature of this stage will be good. But because the controls underwater aren't the best, though isn't that the case with most underwater levels nowadays, they are a huge turnoff for me. I'm User One Campbell, and let's wait until we get to talking about my favorite Sonic levels during Sonic Month in June.